Among the many oddities in the oddest instalment of Christian Apocrypha, the medieval Gospel of Barnabas, there is a report of a war at a place called Mizpeh. It is in chapter 91. The account reads as follows. At this time there was a great disturbance throughout Judea for the sake of Jesus, for that the Roman soldiery, through the operation of Satan, stirred up the Hebrews, saying that Jesus was God come to visit them. Whereupon so great sedition arose, that nigh upon the 40 days all Judea was in arms, insomuch that the son was found against the father, and the brother against the brother. For that some said that Jesus was God come to the world. Others said, Nay, but he is a son of God. And others said, Nay, for God hath no human similitude, and therefore begets not sons. But Jesus of Nazareth is a prophet of God. And this arose by reason of the great miracles which Jesus did. Thereupon, to quiet the people, it was necessary that the high priest should ride in procession, clothed in his priestly robes, with the holy name of God, the tetragrammaton, on his head. And in like manner rode the governor Pilate and Herod. Whereupon in Mizpeh assembled 3 armies, each one of 200,000 men that bear sword. Herod spake to them, but they were not quieted. Then spake the governor and the high priest, saying, Brethren, this war is aroused by the work of Satan, for Jesus is alive, and to him ought we to resort, and ask him that he give testimony of himself, and then believe in him according to his word. So it is a Christological war, this war at Mizpeh, this sedition in Judea. There are 3 armies, huge armies, and they each have differing views regarding Jesus. Jesus has been performing miracles. Differing opinions have formed about him because of his miracle working, and at Mizpeh these 3 camps meet with massive armies. The 3 positions are: Jesus is God come among us, Jesus is the Son of God, Jesus is a man and merely a prophet. Finally, they remember that Jesus is still alive, so why not ask him to give testimony to himself rather than fighting about it? And they set out in search of Jesus, who, in a wild deviation of geography in the following chapters, has gone to Mount Sinai. To what does this story allude? To what war? The answer in the first instance would seem to be the Maccabean revolt, because the Maccabees assembled at a place called Mizpeh. It was an important place in the Maccabean uprising. A war at Mizpeh, it must be an allusion to the Maccabeans. The text is importing the Maccabean revolt into the time of Jesus. The reference to Mizpeh makes the identification certain. Mizpeh means watchtower in a military sense, and it could have more general uses, but a war at a place of that name has only one biblical connection: the Maccabean revolt. At the same time, though, the exaggerated scale of the conflict, involving the whole of Judea with armies of 200,000 men, would seem to allude to the later revolts, the First Jewish War and the Bar Kokhba revolt, much more substantial affairs than the Maccabean uprising in terms of scale. In which case, they are also being imported into the period of the ministry of Jesus. All Judea was in arms. This is a portrait of a major war, brother against brother, massive armies. The author wants us to understand that it was sedition on a large scale. But in any case, the cause of the conflict is Jesus, and it is only by consulting with Jesus to clarify who and what he is that the conflict can be brought to an end. Or more correctly, the direct cause of the conflict is blamed on the Romans. They agitate the Hebrews by introducing the idea that Jesus is God come to visit them, the deification of Jesus. This Roman ideology is what creates schism among the Hebrews. Once they find Jesus to quell the war at Mizpeh, we have clear allusions to the Jewish wars and the destruction of Jerusalem. In chapter 93, Jesus says, "Verily you have erred greatly, O Israelites, in calling me a man your God, and I fear that God may for this give heavy plague upon the holy city, handing it over in servitude to strangers." And in chapter 94, we have, "Thou hast greatly sinned, O priest, in saying what thou hast said. May it please God that there come not upon the holy city great vengeance for this sin." I suggest that in these passages we have a conflation of all the historical outbreaks of sedition in Judea, which are all seen as having the same ideological causes. They are continuous: the Maccabean revolt, the First Jewish War, the Bar Kokhba revolt. From the medieval viewpoint, they are all conflated into a single war, the same strife, with Jesus as the point of contention. That is, to strip away the almost cartoonish medieval presentation, these wars were a single struggle over messianic ideology. That is what these passages amount to. The Maccabean revolt, the Jewish wars, they were a single struggle over messianic ideology. Consistent with the author's Islamic agenda, the deification of Jesus is a Roman ideology introduced to stir up the Jews, which many Jews embraced, and is the specific evil that will bring ruin to the holy city. The text participates in the theme that the Jews mistook Jesus, misunderstood who he was, misunderstood their own prophecies, and it was this that brought them to catastrophe. The war at Mizpeh is one of the many non-canonical episodes to be found in the Gospel of Barnabas. These episodes intrude into a diatessaron, blending together a narrative from all the canonical Gospels, often with interesting variant readings. It is where the text detours from canonical models that it becomes most interesting. It is bloated with medieval sermonizing, but in amongst it there are some fascinating episodes that seem to be a body of received material rather than just vapours of the author's imagination. The whole section concerning sedition in Judea deserves careful consideration.